story? The guy? Never mind. Hey, everybody. What is up? What is up? Mike Ward here, and we are here with Mr. Blake Smith and our very distinguished guest, Mr. Wayne Nix. And how's everybody doing tonight?
Living the dream. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Blake, how you doing?
Doing amazing. It actually cooled down below 95 degrees up here, which I know you guys know the heat from Louisiana and Texas, but at the same time, it's starting to finally feel fall weather. So, that means kickoff's not far away for football season.
That's right. That's right. I'm excited about that.
It's almost squirrel season.
So squirrel season.
And it's almost squirrel season. That's true too. Hey, you know what? Actually, this is my first year in a long time that I'm actually going to do a fantasy football. And
oh, really?
I'm kind of being roped into it by a really good friend of mine, who's actually the medical director at one of the hospitals I've worked with. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "All right, man, we're doing it. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing it." I'm like, I'm in school right now. I don't have a whole lot of time, So, I might have to just auto draft.
Guess what I had to change my name to last year?
What?
I had David Johnson, and he was like my keeper from the year before. And, he dislocated, and went out for the season. So I had to change my name to My Johnson's Dislocated. That was my team name.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Nice. I was like, no pun intended.
That's good. I might have to have you come up with a name for my team. That's pretty clever.
It just kind of fell into place, but...
So tonight we're talking nursing innovation. And, I thought, if we're talking nursing innovation, which, by the way, just a little plug for our convention coming up. We're talking nursing innovation at our convention. This is going to be a big one. Blake, you want to just, before, we get started, it looks like we got 4 people already on. You want to go ahead and just give us a little background about what nursing innovation is, what we're covering at the convention.
Well, when you think about nursing innovation, it's a very wide continuum, I believe. When you think about innovation and entrepreneurship, you think about things and the lanes that many people like Wayne are being very successful in product development, efficiencies, all of those things. But we as nurses on the front lines really impact the bedside innovatively, not just by products, but by many anything that impacts quality and safety. And so we'll be talking in a broad spectrum in regard to innovation, but we're going to focus a lot on innovation and entrepreneurship and how nurses need to get into developing workflows, efficiencies, safety protocols, as well as products to better take care of our communities. And so I'm just so excited for Wayne to be here, and we'll continue that conversation at the national conference along with Dr. Susan Hassmiller as our keynote. And so we're just really excited to have you here, Wayne. And I'm sure by the end of this, we'll hope to talk you into coming to the conference.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, right.
This guy's a good leader, man. This guy's got a lot of stuff going on. As a matter of fact, I want to read you this bio, okay? Because I'm blown away, and I gotta get Dawn, because I'm assuming Dawn wrote this. I'm gonna have to get her to come and write my bio for me. This is good. So let me introduce everybody. Who is Wayne Nix, man? This is Wayne Douglas Nix. So Wayne Nix is on a mission to inspire nurses to innovate. With 20 plus years of experience in healthcare, he formed his company RNvention in 2015 to do just that. Wayne holds active licensure as a registered nurse and a respiratory therapist, as well as he holds an MBA and is a veteran of the Army National Guard. Since forming his company, he's obtained 1 patent, 2 trademarks, and several rounds of startup funding. Wayne's first product, the Multi-Nix, which I have one, by the way, and I'm going to show it, is nursing multi-tool used to save critical time and money on hospital floors nationwide. Wayne receives paid consultation in regard to innovation, commercialization, manufacturing, coaching, pitch presentations, and speaking in select online marketing services. This gentleman is a wildcat, and he's got some good stuff good stuff going on. So let's talk about it, man. What do you got going on? Talk to us.
Oh man, we got a lot going on, and thanks again for having us on the show. But yeah, this has been a trial by fire, more or less. I wake up one day and say, I want to go into innovation. I'm kind of just a victim of circumstance, right? We are down here in the South, which you may be able to tell are not from my dialect, possibly.
I thought that was like New York.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not New York.
The Boston accent.
Just wait till the whiskey's open, then we'll see. No, but like I want to go back to like Blake said. I mean, it's a wide continuum, I think is kind of what he said about innovation. And you're exactly right, because that's where I come in. I'm like, what is innovation? What's the definition of innovation? And I think that's part of the problem why nurses don't really know, because it's not just the introduction of something new. It's the introduction of something that has value, and that could change depending on who the audience is, right? Mm-hmm. But innovation's after the fact. It's after we've created a process or a product that gets downstream, right? It has to be downstream before we can say it was successful. But nurses, I mean, they're very creative. They're on the fly, and they have to change and adapt every day. Well, that's what this process is. I mean, innovation, going through the processes of trying to learn. There's a difference between entrepreneurship and innovation. And I say that because I work a lot with LSU Health Science Center in Shreveport, and the fact that they innovate all the time, but they're not really entrepreneurial, right? So they need somebody to actually push this, these things to market. And that's really what my big, hairy, audacious dream is. But at the same time, there's a lot of nurses that have been coming to me, and I don't know how long we're going to be on the show, but,
this is a 3-hour show. This is a 3-hour show.
I need more whiskey.
Disclaimer.
So I had to make a decision about 3.5 years ago. Do I want to innovate, or do I want to go back upstairs and create, good care for the patients? And you could argue that I made the irrational decision to quit, but I'm married up, so Dawn's paying the bills, and it's just because, again, victim of circumstance. The CNO and the CEO really wanted to help support me, but at the same time, we manage healthcare on average, right? On the law of averages, on what's best for the hospital, what's best for the patient. And I don't want to be average. I want to be outstanding.
There we go.
Right? So how do we do that? And the hospital's got to pay their bills, man. They got to make sure you have bread and butter on the table. So the last thing they need you to do is start, changing every process. And if I had to say innovation is one word, it's change. And try this next time you're talking about innovation. Say change and see how many people react to you in a positive way. It's not quite the same, right?
Especially where we live. I live in Nebraska. It's like change is not something that we like to do too much around here.
Well, I want to change this, or I want to innovate this. Well, one's a lot more sexier, right?
It is.
So and there's a lot of ambiguity, but there's a difference between innovation and invention, right? And ideas. So ideas can have value, but the value in an idea is really that they tell you something's missing and that something's possible. But you have to actually take action on it. And when you take action, that's when it can become an invention, right? But you can invent in your basement. If you don't get it downstream, it doesn't become innovation. So now there's processes that we learned along the way, like lean canvas, business model canvassing. But again, it all boils down to, you only have so much time, energy, money, and people. And a lot of things happen when you don't have this backup system like going to work, right? I mean, that's when the refrigerator breaks. That's when the car breaks down. That's when Dawn has surgery twice. She just had it again Monday. So, right. And this is right before we're about to go live with our Indiegogo campaign. So that's
when everything happens, man. That's testing your constitution. That's what's going on.
I would say it's because I was a nurse that's actually making me succeed to the fact that I can adapt, bob and weave, right?
That's good.
Because every time you make a plan, it never happens like it's supposed to. It's just like every time you get shift report, that patient's not like they said they were. So,
true. That's very true.
Tell me that X and Y was missing.
I mean, when I give shift report, it is. They just throw that out there. I know
it is the best report in the world.
So, but it really kind of started again. I'm tired of being labeled as just a nurse. Right? I don't know how deep you want to get into that, but we went to a conference where we didn't get into this to make a hand tool for nurses. That's one of the 30 ideas that I had. The first idea I had was for 3D photogrammetry scanning of the neonates and doing 3D printing to fit them anatomically. And when we went to some of these conferences, we went in scrubs, and I asked Dawn, she said they thought we were there to take their blood pressure for their health screening, right? Because we were in scrubs. And it's like, no, man. So we're here to make a difference. And, we just continue to fight the fight. In fact, it was after that when we started saying, you know what, this is bull. We're going to make this more of an empowerment movement and trying to educate others about the barriers that we've having to overcome. And we want to kind of, try and basically blaze that trail for other people to follow.
Well, you bring up a good point, Wayne, is that we even talk about this in general in AAMN, is that we as men, many times, you get stuck in that box of imaging, just like nursing itself gets stuck in a box many times, and how it's viewed in the public. And I truly believe personally is because we don't do enough to bring the awareness of what we really do. And we don't, because we leave it up to the depiction of many times Hollywood and all these others that, we stand there, we're either a comic relief or we're standing in the background, and then physicians are running around taking blood pressures and all sorts of stuff. But people don't really understand that nursing is, when we say universal profession, we really mean it. But I think a lot of people don't understand what universal means and how that actually is conceptualized. And you're, a prime example of this is that nurses are everywhere, not just even in the healthcare industry.
That's true.
We have impacts outside the healthcare industry. And many of us who came into this profession come with education that's outside of the profession that brings value to the communities we serve. And so when someone says I'm just a nurse too, when I hear that, and I know you guys probably cringe too when you hear that phrase. One, you could be a first-year RN, or you could be a PhD who's been published, 100 times. You're an RN first, and that carries weight in the public when you say you're an RN.
It's the number one trusted profession of all time.
And you walk into a room, they're like, "Oh, you're an RN. Well, have you seen the scab on my knee?" And have you they trust you like right on the right. They don't even know what your name is, and they're trusting your opinion. And so, how do we how do we take that and really continue to evolve and expand our influence for positive change? And I think you're one of those amazing examples, Wade, in that regards of outside the box, thinking of how you can impact, the healthcare system and the efficiencies through, as I know how you referred to the lean process and all of these workflow processy, theories that we utilize and tools we utilize. But right. It ultimately, the outcome is making a better community, not just the health system.
I mean, nurses are prime position to know what really works, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of the concept is, well, how come they're not more involved in the very beginning instead of after somebody in the lab has already built something? And that's really what my dream is to kind of bridge that lab science with life science, right? Build the things that we need. Because how many times has a process been implemented by some outside entity and they haven't even set foot in the freaking hallway?
They come into the break room and you have 10 nurses look at it and you're like, nah, not going to work. So and they pick it apart.
And we create these workarounds every day, and that's just part of us, right? So, and you quickly realize it's shades of gray. There's really no black or white. And at the end of the day, it's really the human, it's us as individual that keeps these things going. It's us that care. And we do what's right because we got to get shift done, right?
You got to get shift done. Hey, let's segue over to just a little bit on this get shift done, because you have something going on, man. You're doing a lot of talking, a lot of speaking engagements on getting shift done.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, we have we've been invited to a few different places to really kind of talk about innovation, and again, how do we even get started, and how do you get other nurses started? And I really believe that innovation comes from within healthcare, but at the same time, it's at a microscopic level. It comes from the individual. So, because I can tell my story about the barriers that I've had over and over, but there's really only been one barrier. That's me. So, and until you realize that, you're never going to actually advance.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, because like being in the hospital, you can always say, well, I asked this doctor about this and they said, maybe you shouldn't go forward with that. Well, did you just quit because it's that one person? No, I mean, if you know that's right, you figure out what is it you have to do to do the best thing going forward. I guess I'm trying to relate it back to a clinical situation.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea here again is, I didn't get my funding the first time. I didn't quit. So I kept going back. The first time that I pitched, and it was terrible. Matter of fact, I didn't like speaking in public, and now I'm getting paid to speak in public. So go figure. But I think it's just a testament to the fact if you start doing the research on everybody, that there's a lot of introverts out there that truly are entrepreneurial. It's just kind of like they can not be introverts for a select amount of time. And I think I'm one of those people.
Like Brandon Barrett for a little bit.
Yeah. So, but also look, it's very easy to see the things that are stopping you, right? It's very easy to pick out the things that are wrong in the world, let's say. But I had to get away from that negative mindset. I needed to be in a more free space. And ironically, I had to quit work. I quit work and started roasting coffee beans, man. So, right. I started roasting coffee beans and making tea, and then got into something called Google Hangouts on Air. We started doing a little cooking show called Looking for Good Cooking. Right. And
looking for good cooking?
Looking for good cooking. So I would do some Louisiana live cooking. It wasn't scripted or anything. And then we had Chef Larry Fernelier from Trinidad and a few other people.
Wow.
Point being is we got invited to what was called a Hangout in Real Life in 2014, a Hurl in Denver, right, where Google kind of paid for some of that to happen.
Wow.
When we were over there, it was just being in that environment. It actually opened the doors to the things like Lean Canvas and that sort of stuff that I didn't know about, because I had ideas before, and you go down to the Small Business Development Center and they say, well, come back when you have a business plan. Look, I have an MBA. I don't want to spend my time writing a business plan. I know it'll work. So there's other tools out there that you should be using before you even build that business plan. And it was learning things like that. That's what I've been sharing with, people on the side. And again, nurses know how to get things done. I mean, come on, you know which doctor you can approach and which ones you can't. Right. But you still get the things that you need for that patient done. And like I said, this is a roller coaster ride. And the one thing that I have learned, that if the day sucks, I mean, if stuff's not really going good, then that means something good's about to happen. Right. You just kind of need to have some patience and see what happens. But, I mean, if you're hungry, go eat. If you're angry, calm down. Right. I mean, it's not that at the end of the day, what's it all about? What are you trying to do? And, what's your mission in life? What's your mantra? At the end of the day, you're doing this for your family and your friends. Because I can tell you, I was doing it for my family. I was trying to climb this corporate ladder, doing everything I was supposed to do. And then when I didn't have the backup and the support from the institution that I was at, because we had some family tragedies, it quickly made me realize that I don't know if they really have my back, sort of jazz, right? And it's not, again, not trying to take a punch at the institution. They have to do what they have to do to keep the institution running. I get it, right? But this was, I don't know how personal you want to get about this. But my sister and my two nieces were murdered, right? And it was under active investigation, and I couldn't really talk about it back then. So, it was really eating me up. And this is at a time when HCAPS came out. I don't know if you probably know what HCAPS
I've
is.
heard of those.
Then the student group and all that. And it's like, look, I'm not going to smile. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. So, but just really going down that road, figuring out what is it that I want in life, I experienced that loss, but that in itself, that mess it set me on a mission. It's a blessing, because it let me realize then, not 30 years into my profession, is this really what you want to do? Sort of thing, So are you spending the time and energy towards the things you want to do? And I don't know if I went totally off topic or not. Again, drinking.
No. So I like where you're going with that, and that kind of just goes back to the fact that, man, as a nurse, you don't have to just stay by the bedside.
No. And then, there's a lot of nurses that go in to be nurse practitioners. And here's the thing. If you haven't noticed, healthcare keeps changing, right? It's going to change some more. And once we figure out how to Uberize nurses and to do things more online, because you're not going to be able to build hospital institutions big enough, not quick enough. We just don't have the financial capability to do so. So we're going to have to figure out ways to actually provide care on the go and that sort of stuff. So what are those systems going to be? I've talked to several people that do home nursing. I think there's a huge potential for innovations to be in that space, both in the product and a service. But again, there's something that's called opportunity costs, and you got to have the financial means to kind of do some of these things. But that's why I was looking into SBIR grants, which is Small Business Innovation Research Grants, and Student Technology Transfer Research Grants. These are given, it's really funded by the government, but they have like the National Institutes of Health and all these sorts of things that there may be something out there that you have the knowledge to change as a nurse. And at the end of the day, look, I mean, I was trying to be a cowboy and do this all on my own. Quickly realized, man, it's just like being at work. You got to have some roundtable discussions. You got to be able to have, some sort of cross collaboration. If it was that easy, then everybody would do it. So, sure. And the point is you can't be the expert in everything, right? Now you'll quickly learn that in entrepreneurialism, you're either a hacker, a hipster, or a hustler, and initially you're all three, but you're really only good at being one of them. So which one is it? And then you need to figure out how are you going to compensate for those other two deficiencies, right? No different than at work. If you're good at sticking IVs or not, right? So you figure out who's good at doing what and how can you share that load. But at the end of the day, it really is, do they believe in the mission and the mantra, what you're trying to do? I want to build things better. I say, why not? I'm tired of Stryker coming in asking me all these questions and then I never see a that sucks. Right? That needs to change. But anyway, yeah. So I think nurses don't realize how valuable they are. Right? You've never had that person say you are valuable and truly mean it and tell you. I mean, think about this. Imagine if the people at, I hate to say big box stores, but imagine if they provided the same level of customer satisfaction that you do. I mean, that place would be rocking, right? I don't know, man. We have the heart, we have the brains, we have the power. And the point about the shared team is you probably going to need some scientists and some labs involved, especially if you want to do medical development or medical sorts of developments in software or even, products, because you need the science. And that's going to be 7 to 9 years. So you need to know intellectual property laws. So how are you going to build that relationship? And what are you going to do in the meantime for money? Because you still got to live, while that's going on. Right? So
tell us, man, what's the answers? What's the answer? What are we supposed to do?
Well, everybody's a unique snowflake. So,
but they have snow down in Louisiana.
Actually, we do. It's kind of more like every now and then. It does cost a lot of money, but there's opportunities out there, especially for women right now. There's a ton of grants out there for women and minorities. Now, look, I'm veteran of small business certified for my service, but it doesn't really get me a lot. All it did do was allow me to be able to sell to a hospital at present because I don't have to be on a GPO, which is a group purchasing organization. Because to be on a GPO, you got to have X amount of sales, X amount of white paper studies, et cetera, et cetera. And they leave a certain section of their money, like 3 to 7%, depending on the hospital, to specifically buy from minority and veteran-owned businesses, is what we've learned here. And they actually get penalized if they don't buy from a GPO. So, and I don't know how much experience you guys have with budgets, but what we've really learned is that, there's so many independent silos within a healthcare system as far as budgetary wise. It's very hard to sell to them, and it's a long, lengthy process. And to get something in a hospital, it's either a top-down or a bottoms-up approach. So, and this, man, they try and switch these IV catheters on you, and you have to stick somebody 6 or 7 times just because they're trying to save 7 cents. We're going to say something about that. Right? Yeah. Because we're trying to do the right thing.
I've witnessed that very thing.
Yeah, and again, I understand what they're trying to do because I've been on both sides of the aisle. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be a third option. Yeah. That's where I am.
Well, listen, man, I want to talk a little bit before we get off, because it actually is a 30-minute show, right? So we still have some time. I want to talk about this tool that you have behind your head there. Oh, yeah. Give us a heads up. What is this thing?
So the idea behind this was I was, you go into a room, you usually have a pair of scissors or you have a pair of hemostats. Hemostats are always lying around until you need them. And then it's like, what are we using this thing for? So, they're made and they're designed. I actually know a lot about why they're designed now, but they're made to pull sutures and clamp arteries and that sort of jazz. But we're using them to puncture through packaging, to try and get pills. We're trying to screw in the light bulb. Everything we're trying to use these little. It's really the first true multi-tool of a nurse. But then I work in the same unit, or I did work in the same unit with my wife. So she'd always come around asking, can you unscrew this? Can you unscrew that? And then being in several situations where I didn't have an oxygen key, right? One of them being mid-flight when we were on a transport. I'm like, this is crap. Somebody needs to create something. So the idea here is it's 15 plus features. You have a screwdriver tip.
Here, let me try to highlight this.
So so there's a screwdriver tip on the front, or a flat blade. So you can scrape tape off of the monitor. You can split pills and packaging. You can actually screw in that light bulb. You have plier tips, so you can grab. We made a little concave hole there. That's because when you go to try and undo that ID and it's really, really tight, if you're using two flat surfaces, I've actually cracked some lines that way, right?
Oh.
So that's made to kind of disperse the weight and the pressure around it. And we have measurements on both sides. We have millimeters, so you can see for pupils. And then this side is just for quick measurements. Of course, it also cuts.
Okay. All right.
So the center, so you can open jars. We have a quick little vial cap. We have a little razor blade in the handle, so you can zip through some of that packaging material that we have to open all the time, right? We added this hex key because dialysis wanted it. So we said, okay, why not? Of course, we have the oxygen key. In the back, we made this kind of like a little pry bar. And the idea here was, again, respiratory therapists, a lot of times you'd have this trach that would be stuck, to the vent circuit, and you just need to tweak it just a hair, just to kind of get it loose. And the idea here was you can kind of get on there and scoop it and just to get it break free so you can pull it. If not, then you kind of choking the patient. But you can also use it to space out EKG waves if you do that sort of thing. The little
calipers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
So, and we left the hole there, this open fly wrench, is so whenever you actually screw it on the E-cylinder, the old ones, you can actually crank this thing down to make sure that screw turns real tightly. And that's pretty much a quick general overview. And, the idea was simple. I thought I'd get it done in about a year. It's been almost 4 now. We've been through.
That's how it goes, right?
Yeah, this is version 5. Look, I even have even one of the smaller ones. Right.
Oh, check that out. Yeah. Was that one of the first ones?
Yeah. So the idea here was you would hang it at the patient's bedside.
All right.
It would be disposable. In fact, the story is this. It's not made up. We went there with the idea we want a high-end tool that would last. But we went, and the entire nursing administrative department was like, hey, we like that idea, but we'd actually like them cheap and disposable. So we spent
infection control got a hold of you is what you're saying.
That's true, right? So we spent 4 months and $18,000 to pivot to make these, and then we got them and brought them to them. They said, these feel cheap and disposable.
That's exactly what they wanted.
That's exactly what you wanted me to deliver on.
I know, but again, so they didn't like them because they were breaking all the time. Because again, cheap and disposable, and I couldn't get them down in the price because I'm not Stryker, right? I don't make these things. It costs us a ton of money just to make the molds that have to go in them. So we went back and started to the drawing board and started really asking, what is it that you want? What are you trying to use these for? So we made these for the general floor nurse and the ICU nurse. But what we realized once we were actually able to manufacture is that it's really the ER nurses that are really kind of gravitating towards this. So again, we're on version 5. Next version will probably be a little more sturdier. We're about to do an Indiegogo campaign. There you go.
See that?
Yeah.
I've been using these since, I don't know, man. How long has it been? Like 3 months plus? I don't know. It's been a while. I have these all the time. These things are awesome. I really, really love them. And so anyway, I just wanted to say that, man. I really do. And I bought these. All right. I did not. This is not a plug.
This is not a plug.
I did not get sponsored for this. Okay. I paid for these. Okay. But I love them. These things are amazing. So,
well, and I just watching them right now, I left the bedside about 10 months ago, and I had I call them sharks, the cutting part of them, because being a college football player, we call them sharks. of, you could quickly cut the spat off after practice and everything. But I had to have those scissors. Like they give you these, you go into the storage room and there's a scissors, and one, you had to take the sterile ones, which again was not a cost saving great thing.
We have data.
Yeah. And so you either took those or you took these really cheap ones where I'm trying to cut the surge net with these little tiny scissors with like this much teeth.
Like eyebrow.
I'm in there for like 15 minutes. Yep. So I carried sharks on me, but at the same time, I had so many other things I needed to do. Man, I missed the boat on this. I'd already be ordering one right now if I need one at my desk. If I need one at my desk, maybe I still need one to open some letters or something with that cut tool.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and let you tell. Wayne, Blake doesn't really do much in the hospital anymore. All right. So he's no, I'm just kidding. But he's on a different boat now. But you still do do you do the bedside still? Every now
well, I'm still on the bedside. I do project management for all care plans and patient education reform with our EMR system. I'm kind of like the in-between from the clinical to the IT. And we're reforming the entire organ or enterprise for Nebraska medicine in how care plans actually work and how patient education is distributed to patients. And so I get on the bedside all the time because, I'm just one of those individuals that if I'm asking somebody to do something, I'm in the trenches with them, because I've always hated the administrator that will tell you in a suit to do something.
Do that.
Yeah,
go do that.
I'm more like, I'm in scrubs and first of all, they're like, who's that dude? And then someone needs to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I'll help you. And like, I'm helping clean a patient. And then the charge nurse came in and they're like, what are you doing in here? I'm like, I'm helping clean a patient. You see that RN on my name tag? Yeah.
There we go, baby. That's right.
Right? And I think that's my passion of a team approach, is even though I'm in administration, it's all about that team approach. And coming from being a coach before I went into nursing, it's all about, I would never ask a player to do what I can't do, and I would never ask my colleague to do something that I wouldn't do.
See, I'm glad you brought up the coaching, because again, I went in the military when I was 17, so I was exposed to a lot of leadership stuff, and it's just, I think that's really the key, is that how do we get more leadership training in healthcare? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to knock the profession at all, because we're doing a lot of great things, but we're so busy taking care of the patient. Like that's been our focus. And I've already been invited to a couple of the universities to talk to nurses about, getting them involved in innovation. They're too early. They need to pass their NCLEX. Right? So, exactly. But I think there should be almost like a semester after you pass the NCLEX. And that's where we slowly would get you into, look.
Well, nurse residency programs is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, but they're teaching you all clinical.
That's
and I'm
true.
Saying, nobody's saying this is what a budget is, and this is how you're going to fight for your staff, right? You're taught that once you're in that management position, unless you go to school to learn about it on your own. So, and I think nurses have been able to get the rug pulled over them sometimes because they don't really understand the difference between expense versus revenue and that sort of stuff. That's all, I understand it.
Well, you can tell whenever you see nurses just burn through supplies, and not scan them or anything like that. They just,
it's not their budget.
Yeah, it's not their budget, man. They got plenty of money.
Yeah,
it's hospital.
Yeah. But I can tell you, Dawn has a 4.0 average from school. She has French background, and then she did nursing because she knew that she had to make some money.
You did marry up.
Yeah. So, but she doesn't understand the revenue expense, but she does now because I was explaining it. It's like I's and O's, right? Inputs and outputs. And the key here is you actually want to have a residual. You want to have that reserve. She's like, well, you just didn't say that. So it's like, well, so learning these things and having to explain to her, because she has to know everything. It's really been an eye-opening experience.
She's a nurse.
And yes, exactly. So, and I think the fact that I have been a nurse and have been able to talk to patients on such a level that, let's talk about Evilus collapsing in the neonates. I'm not going to say, look, your baby has RDS. I'm going to say, you ever had 2 plates in a sink with no soap and you ever try to pull them part? Yeah, they wouldn't do it. So you put a little soap in there. And I'm not saying we're putting soap in your baby's lungs, but I'm just saying, if we put soap in the water, they start to slide. Well, that's kind of what we're doing with surfactant. And like, oh, I get it, right? So
I always refer to COPD with boxcars, like, and where I draw this big map, like, or this figure out up on the whiteboard, and I'm drawing little boxcars with a train and talking about how if they don't dump the CO2 off at the station, you can't upload, the next your oxygen. So then they're like, oh, okay, now I get it.
That's good.
And it's good. And then some physicians are amazing at it too. And I've learned some of these tricks from them who are great at doing this. But then you have physicians that go in there and they just talk, and you will not let them in a room without you present. Because you have to take 30 minutes to actually translate. Like, I feel like I have a second language because I have to translate from what they just did, because they walk out of the room and that patient family their eyes are like, what did they just say?
Yeah.
And so
that's been helping me on the university level. Like, when I get to go and talk to the physicians and the scientists, it's like, I know you have something great and amazing, but nobody cares if they don't understand it.
Exactly.
So, and that's why I've been able to be pretty good with the pitches and that sort of stuff, because just understanding what's the true value to the person that you're talking to. If you're talking to another scientist, that's great. Tell them all that stuff, but we're not writing a paper. You're actually trying to get investment funding, or you're trying to get a consumer or somebody interested in using your product. Then, in essence, what I've become is a marketing person. All right. And then what type of marketing? Advertising, or is it just social media, or is it content creation or curation? Or, right. So you learn all these things, and I have an MBA, and often equivalent, like, it's similar to nursing. When you go to nursing school, they don't teach you how to be an expert at every single thing. They give you broad knowledge, right? Until you step out in that clinical arena and figure out what it is you want to do, then you become an expert, like in cath lab or wherever it is you want to work. Same thing with my MBA. They didn't teach me how to be an accountant, but they did teach me how to do some basic things, right? And I'm glad the MBA is a double-edged sword, because it's about micromanaging. And as a startup, you are IT, you are everything, man. So, and you don't have the reserves, and you don't have the customers. So it's a different mindset. And that was a big pill.
I believe it's coming, man. I believe it's coming.
So,
I believe you got big things happening, man. I believe that you guys are going to go far with this. You and Don are going to the top, man. I really believe it. This is an amazing product, by the way. And I know you guys are doing a lot of other amazing things, but this is the only thing that I have that's tangible that you guys are involved in. Now, but let me ask you this. How would you pitch? Because apparently you're really good at pitching, right? How would you pitch yourself, or how would I pitch you to come to the conference and effectively?
Well, there's this book that I can let you read. No, man. Look, I want to go. The issue just, again, it kind of boils down to, where are we with the bandwidth? What's it going to cost to get there? What's the return on investment, et cetera, et cetera. Because as nurses, we're always asked to give more and more and more. But when having to step away from the bedside, again, I don't get paid every 2 weeks. So how, I don't get that constant check like I used to.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
So
just get Don. Say, Don, I need to work you a couple extra shifts.
Yeah, well.
And don't tell her I said that, man. I'm just playing. Don't tell her.
Oh no, she's fine. So, but she had surgery on Monday, so she's recovering from that right now.
Hey, we got a comment. You want to read that, Blake?
Oh, from Dr. Bly?
Yes.
So he says, from his experience, that he says even scientists sometimes need simple explanations. Many times we fear the imposter syndrome. A smart person can simplify and communicate with common values. And I agree with that. I mean, it takes a very intelligent individual to be able to take complex ideas and really bring it home in a tangible way. And I think he brings the point where I've heard this from very, very intelligent people too, or I would say they want to be intelligent, but they're almost imposters. Like he said, they know the material, that they're book smart. So they'll throw a bunch of terminology at you thinking that, oh, you'll go along with it because
dazzling them.
it's really, really cool what they're saying. Yeah. Well, obviously, all of us are on the same level of regards of knowing that terminology, but we're sitting there. If they're not genuine in what and how they're delivering it and being able to explain it in a way that is actually, like you said, creates value and creates tangible results in reality, that's where the imposter syndrome, I think, comes in from that aspect. They're trying to dazzle you, like Mike said, but they don't really have much I wouldn't say content. I'm missing a word here. Or just, to be able to deliver on what they're trying to say to you.
Well, Dawn and I were having this conversation the other day because, again, I get to vent to her and I don't have to watch what I say. So
I bet you did. You're just saying that because it's the guys here. I know different.
I said the problem with nurses is that we're always spotting what's wrong, right? That's what's wrong with this patient. It's never like what's right. So, and it's because we have to, right? So we're trained every day to spot what's wrong so we can make sure they're living. But at the same time, it's like, are they living? Because all you're doing is telling them what's wrong. So it's just a different mindset to have sometimes. And
as an innovator, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think so. Just to kind of realize that, rules are there for a reason. We're very risk adverse in healthcare, and rightfully so, because we don't want to kill anybody, and we definitely don't want to get sued. And I think more people actually are more afraid of being sued than killing somebody, but that's a whole separate topic. So, because again, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about, how do you protect ourselves and how do we protect our loved ones? But you have to go to work every day. You have to use these systems. When do we actually have the time to think about how to make these systems better? I don't know. I have a train in my brain that never stops, right? So, and I'm always thinking, how can we make things better? But there's always a cost with that too. Just because you have a ton of creative ideas doesn't mean that they're great. And it's almost like they have this, I think it's called like an Easter Island or something. We have all these crabs that are coming down the island, like these little red crabs. And just think if that was your ideas, that's kind of what you need. But you need friends and family that can pick off these ideas and say, it's not worth it, right? You want the bad ideas to go away so you can focus on the ones that are good. And the whole point about that little story is that one of the biggest challenges that I've had as a nurse is to be able to focus on one thing, right? Now, you're great at it in a trauma situation. If there's a code, what are you going to do? Your ABCs. Is it still ABCs, airways, breathing, circulation? I think they change it every 2 years.
Yeah, it's CBA now, but yeah.
Anyway, more compressions than breathing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really just being able to focus on that one thing, because as a nurse, you're responsible for everything, right? And we're always trying to manage time. And that was the idea behind the product too, is, I mean, think about this. Every nurse we surveyed said they leave the room at least once a shift to go find a pair of scissors or a pair of hemostats. And it's not like they're going and grab it and coming right back, because when you step out the room, they see that physician that they've been waiting on. And then before they get down the hall, somebody wants to know where this other room is. And before you get there, then you got to go get this IV pump that's beeping. And it's like, if you just had something that can kind of help give you a couple seconds back on the clock to where we can get back to the bedside and take care of Meemaw and Mama, all right? Yeah. Instead of me having to go look around for all these things that technically I'm using a product for, a forceps that's not even designed for. So, I'm spending all this time to go out here and look for a product that I'm using as a off-label use, right? We have surveys of nurses breaking into Coke machines just because they wanted to get a 50-cent Coke because they didn't get their lunch, sort of jazz, right? But they opened a $500 surgical tray to get it. And look, these are open questions that we provided, and I had to do that because, again, we spent a lot of our personal assets to get into this arena, and it was learning things like that. And even attending the emergency nursing conference this last weekend, the same thing. It gives us a little bit of wind in our sail for these nurses that come up saying, I needed that yesterday. I needed that last night. That's when I knew we got to be on to something, man. So, because we keep hearing the same stories, and it doesn't matter if they're here in Louisiana, if they're in Taiwan, or anywhere. It's the same sort of jazz, right?
Well, I think you're onto something, man. I really do. And I hate to say it, it's because it's a great conversation, but we have got to wrap this up.
All right.
Hang on, Blake. What'd you do, man? Hang on a second. Lean back. we're going to have to wrap this up, man. It was great having you on the show. And I'm really, really excited to spread this knowledge around, man, to share you with the AAMN organization. And I hope that you can somehow make it out to the conference. If you can, awesome, man. That'd be great. If you can't, well, you know, we understand.
Right. Well,
so what do you have here? Let me show again. Let me see what we got here. So did you create something?
Oh, just a little something for you guys. So, I mean, for your crowd you're following, we have this link. So if you go to multimixtool.com/AAMN, you can get on our email list, and we'll give you like a $5 discount on the early bird tier that we have for Indiegogo, and we're launching that on the 7th.
So I can't see that too well on my screen. Does that say multinixtool.com/AAMN?
Correct. AAMN.
Yeah, we'll definitely put that out. That is awesome. I thank you for doing that for us, Wayne.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people listening now, as well as who many people listen to the recording. I think this is something that is groundbreaking, especially for bedside nurses. It really is. And like I said, you sold me. Like I was like, I could have like you said, I could have used this yesterday.
Right.
These are really good. I'm serious, man. These are awesome. They're really awesome. I would bring them to the conference, but I'm afraid that they'll take them from me when I go through luggage. You know what I'm saying? So
actually,
I'm not going to risk it.
Yeah. So we've had that issue on the plane, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's scissors, man. I mean, come on, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool.
Well, listen, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. Blake, you want to take us out, man? Is there anything that you want to talk about? Any updates or any important topics that you want to?
Yes. Be watching your email. Elections for board of directors will be coming out here very soon. There's actually, we have quite a few board of members at large nomination, which is awesome. So please, we can't lead this organization without your engagement and your input on who leads this organization. So please take it very seriously. Really reflect on who you think we need in the next year and where we're at as an organization, and so that we can put the best people at the right time to help guide us in 2019. And thank you to all the people who put award nominations in. We had a great capture on that, so I want to thank all of you for that. And we're pretty excited with the potential recipients. And I just, in summary, innovation, like all of us three have been talking about today, is that it's a continuum. But when you get into the bedside, always be thinking you are the best person in regard to improve quality and safety for your patients and yourself, to make sure that the healthcare system industry is the best it could be. And someone has said to me when I was, because I'm in the informatics realm, but there's somebody in informatics that said, if you really look at it, she wished she had a capture of the trend of how many great ideas there have been in the past decade. And she says, I guarantee you I'd put my money on in Las Vegas that 90%, if not 100% of those ideas originally came from a nurse.
Right.
But they don't get the credit for it.
Right.
Because it needs other people to take hold of it. Like you said, Wayne, it's a group team effort, but the original idea came from a nurse. So take that idea, guys. That is truth. And I it's my personal experience as well, that we are the ones that can drive change and drive intervention. So think of that as you practice your craft. And Wayne, I thank you again for being here. And we hope we see you at the conference. If not, we'd love you to be a member of AMN. You know that we got to do that plug, but right. You're always welcome with us, and we hope that you'll come back sometime.
I enjoyed it. Hope I didn't ramble too much.
Oh no, this is great.
No, man, we had a great one. It was great. It was great. All right, guys, we're signing off. Everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you next Sunday. Actually, no. Next Sunday is Labor Day, right?
No, we got one more weekend. We got one more weekend.
Okay, all right. We'll talk. We'll revisit that next week. Next week, 8 p.m., guys. All right.
Talk to you later.